Hey Viking fans, here we are at the 2022 NFL Combine, and look who I found, everyone. Tom Pelissero, NFL Network. Thanks for joining us. Look, you have all the storylines covered in the NFL, so I'm going to ask you right now. Early parts of the Combine, but what are some of the more dominant storylines and talkers right now in the NFL?
It's really all about the quarterbacks, which is not exactly breaking news. We're kind of in that spot every year, but you just think about the number of high-profile quarterbacks that are potentially available, and then the number of teams that have a big need at the quarterback position. Starts in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. The Packers, like all of us, awaiting what exactly Aaron decides that he wants to do. Certainly the Deshaun Watson situation is going to play out both legally in terms of serious allegations of sexual misconduct, as well as a potential trade that the Texans had some optimism at the start of the offseason could get done before March 16th. Now sounds like it's probably something that's going to be closer to the draft. There's obviously going to be questions about Russell Wilson. There's going to be questions right now about Kyler Murray based upon that statement and his desire to get paid right now. He's due $5.5 million this season. I do not believe that he is going to play for the Cardinals for $5.5 million, so something has to give there. You got Jimmy Garoppolo as another potential quarterback on the move. Chris Ballard, the Colts GM, was just talking about Carson Wentz. There's so many of those guys. Free agency is not a really strong class. You do have Jameis Winston there, Mitch Trubisky, among others, and the draft class is not particularly strong. So that trade market is a seller's market right now in terms of the compensation it's going to take to lure any of these guys out.
It seems strange to me that, yes, the NFL is dominated by quarterback talk, but here we are at the Combine. This is not a great quarterback class when you're talking class of quarterbacks for draftees.
You don't have anybody who's in the conversation for the number one pick. I'm not sure you even are going to have anybody who's in the conversation for a top 10 pick, which is not something that happens particularly often. Now, we also know every year through the process there are guys who get lifted up. There are guys who help themselves both on and off the field. I think Liberty's Malik Willis is going to be one of those guys. Pitt's Kenny Pickett is another one who's generally regarded as maybe the most complete at this stage. It's just a matter of, does he have enough upside? Do you feel confident in taking him, in the top half of round one? Sam Howell from North Carolina is another name that you're going to hear quite a bit in that conversation. Cincinnati's Desmond Ridder helped himself at the Senior Bowl. He's going to do everything here. I heard he's going to have an unbelievable workout, kind of like an 11-foot broad jump. He's going to run really fast. People are going to walk away talking about Desmond Ridder. There's guys, Carson Strong too. He's got a knee that people are going to be checking out that's going to be interesting here. And then obviously you've got the Ole Miss quarterback as well, Matt Corral, who's somebody that people are really interested to dig into. He's not going to throw here, coming off the high ankle sprain that he had in the Sugar Bowl, but we'll get a good look at him March 23rd at Ole Miss Pro Day.
Yeah, and it sounds like for a lot of the intangibles, Corral seems to have a lot of that stuff. He's just kind of have to marry some of the physical traits along with, I think, some of these leadership things that they're kind of happy about. But I know Viking fans not necessarily looking at some of the quarterbacks, although I've seen some mocks where Malik Willis from Liberty is maybe at 12, but a lot of excitement because, new front office, coaches, we just solidified, the full coaching staff days prior to the Combine. But in your estimation, we have two big things coming up for this staff. It's free agency and it's the draft a few weeks after that. Which one do you think is going to be more monumental for just the 2022 season?
Well, part of that's going to depend on how they deal with some things in-house in terms of Kirk Cousins' contract, in terms of Danielle Hunter with his option. Those are two of the guys that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah said were among his first calls when he got the job. Obviously, he speaks effusively of Kirk Cousins, and barring some kind of a crazy trade offer, I reported on Super Bowl Sunday, all indications are he's going to be back. With Danielle Hunter, you've got more of a decision to make just in terms of what's the path forward. You got an $18 million roster bonus due on the 5th day of the league year, and that was on a restructured deal. Hunter's going to want to get paid. He's also coming off 2 consecutive season-ending injuries, so how do you deal with those situations? With Eric Kendricks, he's been underpaid for some time now. Do you end up doing a new deal with him? Do you consider bringing back Anthony Barr, who's been one of your team leaders for a long time, or do you let him go in free agency? He's obviously dealt with a lot physically over the past couple of years, just getting himself ready for every Sunday. So all that's a long way of saying what you do with your own roster is going to dictate how much flexibility you have to be active in free agency. Now, there's some positions like cornerback you know you got to do something. This is a good group of free agent corners. There's some good players in the draft at that position too. So free agency comes first, as it does every year.
Yeah.
You're going to have decisions that need to be made. I guess if I had to answer the question directly, I would say the draft, strictly because I don't know how much flexibility they're going to ultimately give themselves in free agency. The other thing with Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, he's a former commodities trader. Everything is about finding inefficiencies through your data. So to the point of drafting a quarterback in the first round, if they feel like they've got a chance to get their franchise quarterback for the next 10 years, I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah.
But a lot of things obviously have to fall into place here on a team that, let's remember, Mark Wilf has said he expects to be competitive to compete for the NFC North in 2022.
Yeah, so that number 12 pick. Now, I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you about specific players because there's still a lot that has to kind of flesh out here. But the Vikings, three of the last 6 first-round draft picks have been corners. And I know that it's an absolute area of need. It's a deep corner class. It's a deep edge rushing class.
Yeah.
But it's not out of the question that this could be the 4th out of 7 draft picks in the first round that could go to corner.
Yeah, corner and edge would be 2 of the spots I would certainly think the Vikings will be targeting, and that's regardless of what they end up doing with Danielle Hunter or even what they do in free agency.
Yeah.
I mean, they clearly had a need at that position a year ago. Pat Peterson was on a 1-year deal. You would be surprised probably if he comes back, although, who knows? It's very early within this process. There are some corners that are going to get paid in this class. I guarantee you that. There are some guys who are going to do very well in free agency. Do you get into that market? Do you wait and let free agency come to you? Yeah. I would say that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's background in Cleveland would indicate that in many cases they're going to be patient and find a Jadeveon Clowney who's sitting out there a couple weeks into free agency. Things, not saying that player, I'm just saying that's something the Browns have done in the past, as opposed to jumping out and being the big spender on day one. But who knows? That's kind of the fun of, we got 2 guys who have no track record in terms of being in leadership roles, and Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. They're obviously, 2 really, 2 guys I know and guys who are really intelligent. They're fun. They're tall. I mentioned this to you earlier. It's got to be the tallest head coach general manager combo in the NFL, but you don't know how they're going to do it, because as much as you go, well, New England guys do things like Bill Belichick. To an extent, that's true, but like Kwesi's been in San Francisco, he's been in Cleveland. Is he going to do things exactly like Andrew Berry or exactly like John Lynch or Trent Baalke? Probably not. So we'll see how he plays this thing out.
See, everybody, this is why not only is he the best, but you bring excitement. Everybody feels that excitement because we don't know what they're going to do. We don't know what they're going to do. We don't know what their approach is going to be. We don't know who they're going to go after in free agency, what they're looking for the draft. So
the one thing we know pretty well, I think we know what Kevin O'Connell's offense will look like. We got a pretty good idea.
We do know that. But that 3-4 defense and how they build that thing up, who they think is going to be on roster, along with the contract issues and all that stuff, who fits that system. There's a lot of things for us to just sort of speculate on, which is going to be fun, and which is why we're going to keep all this coverage here at the NFL Combine. Check it out, Vikings.com. Stay right here. Thanks a lot, Tom.
You got it.